Hey guys, welcome to another Uncensored Repairs. Today we have got a Sony Vaio laptop. I am told by the customer that this laptop is turning off after 1 or 2 minutes of use. And from a quick look around the laptop, I can see that the base plastics are not lining up with the palm rest. It looks like the lugs for the LCD have come away from the base plastics, and it's lifting up the corners here of the palm rest and causing a bit of flex. Now it's possible because the fan is in this location here that's causing an issue, or the fan might have disconnected or something like that. So we're going to take it apart and see what's going on, and see if there's anything that we can do to sort the issue out for the customer. It's possible that it might need a new base plastic, but we just need to have a look first to see what the damage is. Could just be loose screws, but we're gonna take it apart and see. I've noticed that the HDMI here as well on this base plastic area is not it's got cracks around it as well. Is there anything else that we can check out while we're looking? Doesn't appear to be. Okay, so let's get this apart and see what's going on. In fact, I can already see on this corner here, this screw where that actually goes in to the palm rest section of this bottom chassis. That the lug is actually broken from the bottom chassis, so it's highly likely that this laptop's going to need a new bottom plastic if it's going to be fixed properly. But for now, let's see why, or if we can see why it might be shutting down. It could be a number of reasons. Like I said, it could be the connector for the fan, could have a faulty fan, could have a thermal paste issue on the CPU, and or it could have a major motherboard issue as well. So let's check that out. Okay, first of all we have to remove the battery like so, and we have to remove all of the screws from the bottom of the laptop. This should be the hard drive cover, and yes it is. And let's get all this out the way. This should just slide out, maybe lift on the one side then slide out. Oh, there's another screw at the bottom here, that's why that's not coming out. There we go. Looks like it's got an SSD, which is decent, 240 gig. This means the laptop is pretty decent, really. It's going to perform very well. Okay, the memory's under here. Probably don't need to get that out, but let's get the rest of the screws out. Okay, so that lug is broken. It's just twisting round. It's not actually doing anything. This is the screw for the CD drive, so the CD drives just slide out now like that. Get every single screw out that we can see. They're all generally the same size on these Vaios, except for the hard drive screws. There is a flat one here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on here flat, just so I know that the flat one goes there. Usually a couple next to the battery connector on these as well, so yep, there's one there and one on the other side, and they are shorter, so I'm going to put them to the side. Alright, let's just check for any more screws. There's usually some around the CD drive as well. They're always flat ones on these Vaios. They're actually well made laptops, the Vaios. I do like them. Okay, so while we're in a bare bones state like this, CD drive's out, hard drive's out, and it is as it is, let's just carefully open it up and connect a charger and see if we're getting any shutdown issues as it stands like this. Because if it doesn't shut down like this and we are hearing a fan, then it could be a hard drive issue. So let's just test it out. Okay, it's difficult to get the connector in here for the charger due to the lugs being away. But anyway, let's power it up. Okay, so we're getting Vaio. Failed to start Windows. Okay, so first thing I'm noticing here is we don't have any fan at all. There's no fan at all. Nothing blowing out at all. I mean, they usually do require the fan on startup, but yeah, I'm literally getting nothing at all. So highly suspect it's got a fan issue of some sort, so let's check that out. Yeah, literally no heat or anything coming from here. I can actually feel the heat coming off this heat sink, but there's no air blowing out of here at all. Okay, so let's shut this down and get the bottom off here. Okay, have I missed any screws? Okay, it looks like there's a couple of connectors here for the front speakers, so I'll disconnect that off the motherboard, and what I'll do is I'll mark on one of them where that goes, so that one can go on that one, and then I'll know that the other one is for the other one. Okay. There we go. So, base plastic is off. So immediately, here's the main issue that's stopping the base plastic from screwing down properly. Let's have a look. So the lugs are literally broken from each corner. There's one of the lugs here. The other lug is just missing entirely. So it does need a new base plastic. But for now, let's just have a look at what's going on with this. Okay, so this fan should be free to turn, but it's not. It's really difficult to turn that fan. So this is why the fan is not turning round, because it's really grindy and not really very good at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this heatsink and fan, and I'm going to clean the fan out entirely and put some new thermal paste on and put it back together, hard drive in, and we'll test that out, make sure it's not shutting down. But that's generally what I thought it might have been anyway. Yeah, so let's get that done. So this lug is an issue, so what I'm going to do is I'll probably epoxy into place for now, but then I'm probably going to price up a new base plastic for this for the customer, and then get that done. Also, while we're at this stage as well, we might as well make sure that these corner hinges are tight to the palm rest, because this is also half the issue of the flex, because these were slightly loose. So there we go, they're nice and tight. So now let's get this heatsink and fan removed, so we can work on that and see if we can get that spinning nicely. Okay, so we'll disconnect the connector. And there's a couple of screws, I assume. There's one there. This one is actually part of the base plastic, so there's not a screw on there. So there's 4 here as well for the actual CPU. Yeah, so we'll remove this screw here for the top of the heatsink, and we'll remove these ones for the CPU. Always do opposite so we don't damage the CPU on removal, because sometimes the heatsink might be stuck to the CPU. Okay, so that should just come off nicely as shown. The thermal paste is nice and fresh, it's not too hard or anything like that. And yeah, there we go. So we've got this heatsink off, and if you look here around the internal part of the heatsink, there's a lot of dust that's stuck, so that was what is preventing the fan from spinning round. So let's get the let's get a brush and get that cleaned up. Okay, and we'll do the other side. While we do that, we're holding the fan still so we can really get in there properly. So the fan looks good. The only thing now is the heatsink, where the fan blows out, so the air comes out of here and it goes that way out. So a good way of getting rid of all the dust that's blocking up the grills is just to literally blow through that side, and that's especially if you can't access the where the air comes out. And also I can actually access where the air comes out by removing this sticky cover, But this sticky cover, once you remove them, you can't put them back on and you have to apply a brand new one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check the dust that's in the grills right now, which I can see, and about half of it is clogged up with dust. So I'm just going to blow the opposite way and free those grills up. Like so. And now I'm just going to check these grills by looking through the gaps of the fan. Yeah, and they're all nice and clean now. There's actually a bit of that side, so I'm just going to blow that side a bit more. Okay. One more check. That's all nice and clean. Next thing to do is to remove this thermal paste from the heatsink and the fan, the old stuff, and we're going to apply some brand new stuff. And also I'm just going to give that a bit of a brush and a bit of dust on there as well. Okay, so we need some isopropyl alcohol and some cotton buds for that. So let's just get this off with the cotton bud, just whatever we can, then we'll clean it off with isopropyl. And on the CPU as well, let's get that nice and clean. There we go. Okay, so let's get that cleaned up with isopropyl. Okay, I've got a bit left in here. And that'll dissolve all the old thermal paste and get this nice and clean. Okay, brilliant. Let's turn that around. You see all that comes off it. Let's turn that around now and do the CPU. Isopropyl alcohol won't hurt the electronics, that's why we use it to clean things. Okay, so that's all good on the CPU. Now we'll use the other side of the cotton bud just to polish them up. Like so, and the CPU as well. Nice bit of polish on there. Okay. Now what we need is some new thermal paste. Let's put these away. Alright, so I've got some thermal paste here. Been using this for the last 6 years now. Probably going to last me a lifetime. Let's get this open. Let's just use the other side. There we go. Alright. So I've got a little brush in here that I'll keep in there. And what we're going to need to do is pop some of this onto the CPU. Just give it a little mix first. Make sure it's nice and gloopy. Okay. Just a little dab on the CPU. We don't really need too much. That'll do, I think. Yeah. Okay, that'll do. Put this, put the top back on here. And what I like to do with the thermal paste is get a little plastic spudger like this and just butter it across so it's nice and level. There we go. Absolutely beautiful. And then we don't need too much, so if there's any excess on here, then we're not going to put that back on. We're just going to dispose of that, because if you put too much thermal paste on, it can have a detrimental effect for the transfer of the heat. So let's just get that cleaned up like so. Now we can put the heatsink back on. Let's just double check the fan is spinning nicely. Yes, it is. Okay. So CPU first. When we do lay the CPU on, we don't just screw it down straight away. We give it a wobble just to spread out that thermal paste. And then we do opposites, and they're usually numbered on here, which you should do first. So this says number 1, so I'm going to screw that down first. Then I'm going to do number 2, which is the opposite. Let's give that a bit of a wobble while the other 2 are loose. There we go. Then I'm going to do number 3. Then I'm going to do number 4. Okay, and then we have a screw holding the other side of the heatsink down, which goes in there. And then we put the connector back in place, like so. What I'm going to do while this is all open is now test that the fan is working. We don't need the base plastic in place for that, so let's just lightly lift this up. Connect the power supply like so, and turn it on. And beautiful, I can hear it already. The fan is spinning nicely. The heatsink is... Are we getting any heat? Yes, we are. Fan is working beautifully. So now that is all good. The next issue we've got is this base plastic, because if we put this back together, it's a bit of flex in this area. So let's see if we can do something about that temporarily until we can figure out a new base plastic for the customer. So I'm just going to shut this down. All right. So we know that this is all good. This part of the laptop is now fine. It's all fully working. The issue we've got is this base plastic. So let's have a look at this, what we can do about it. An issue with this base plastic on this side is that these lugs are literally torn directly out of the... Totally torn out of the whole thing. That is not good. Right. And also on the back of this, that's totally torn out there as well. All right, okay, so that goes in there. This is for the other side. Again, that's torn out. So for now, what we can do is we can literally super glue those in place. Maybe epoxy or rubber glue at the edges of them just to keep them secure after the super glue is set. Oh, I've got any epoxy. Oh yeah, I've got a bit of epoxy up there that we could probably use to set this. But that should do for temporarily. But yeah, further down the line, I think the customer's going to need a new base plastic. It just looks like they've cracked at the weakest points, and the weakest points being the where the lugs are, where the opening and closing of the LCD has the most force on the base plastic. Okay, let's get some super glue then. For super glue, I only ever use Loctite. I don't use any crap, you know. Loctite, good stuff. This is like this is a Power Flex gel. and you only need a tiny bit of this and it's really strong. But I'm not saying it's going to be strong enough to hold this, but we'll have to just see, won't we? So I'm just going to put a tiny bit all the way around here. Not going to leave it too long, but we just want to set this first bit into place. So there's the one lug. Okay, that's on there. The next lug, to make sure that's straight. It's not perfectly straight, then it doesn't set properly. It has to be touching every part that it's broken from. Okay, and then I'm just going to go around the edge of it just to secure all the cracks. Okay, and the same with this one. All right, okay, so now what I'm going to do is a little trick, and that is using cotton. And so we get a cotton bud, we take the cotton off the cotton bud. Now cotton mixed with super glue is crazy strong, so I'm going to make it into like a little long piece like that, and I'm going to push it around where it has broken off of the chassis. We're doing this while it's still wet, so I'm going to push this into the crack of the lug on this extra stuff that we've put around the edge, and the cotton will soak up the super glue and create a really strong sort of bond. And then what we're going to do is go back over it with some more super glue so it soaks it right in. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So we're circulating it with the cotton, and then we're going to soak it with more glue, and I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to set these lugs in place. The other side's a little bit more tricky because the lugs have to be have to have positioning in order to set to the chassis. So I'm going to use a little bit to start off with. And we're going to try not to go where this bracket lugs. This is actually a Kensington lock connector. So we're going to make sure that this is done very carefully on this side. We're going to wait for that to dry first before we apply more glue. But on this side, we're just going to push into this cotton. Into the cracks of where it failed last time. Maybe use a bit more glue. And here, there's a gap. Okay, and we're going to put a bit more on the other side here. There we go, beautiful. Nice cotton, nice bit of cotton there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to soak this side first because that's the last one to dry. Keep that bit of cotton there just in case we need it. So we're going to absolutely soak this one with super glue now all the way around. And we're going to push the glue into the cotton. And this is going to be super strong. It's already feeling solid. Okay, we're almost out of the glue on this side. We might need to open a new one. Sure, it's absolutely soaked. Okay, so that's that one side. It's absolutely soaked now, so we know we need to leave that to dry and it'll go rock solid hard, and hopefully that's enough to hold that lug into place so the case doesn't move away from the bottom chassis again. We'll have to see about that, won't we? All right, now we got to do the same with the other side. There's just a tiny bit more left in here. I'm going to squeeze that out and then I'm going to open a new glue. Okay, that's finished. While that's drying slightly, I'm now going to push this Kensington lock connector into place to make sure that these lugs are actually glued and stuck also to the cotton underneath. Okay, Kensington connector is nicely lined up. The lugs are in place. But this yeah, okay, that's in place now. As you can see, that is now in place. It's pressed onto where the cotton area is. And now what I might do around the edge of this Kensington connector is just go around it with some more cotton and pack it underneath as well, just to make sure that it's all secure. But yeah, we need to use another glue. Okay, so I'm going to put some underneath the Kensington connector, some at the top and the bottom, and then we're going to pack that up with cotton, and then we might be good, hopefully. Let's get the top on this. We don't need to use any more than that. That is getting nice and hard now. Excellent. Okay, so now we're just going to go over the top of it just with a tiny bit more, just to soak the dry bits up. That should be good. All right. So maybe give it a bit of heat. Just to accelerate this drying a little bit. Only a little bit, we don't need too much. We don't want to melt the case or anything. Okay, so let's lightly put this back together now, and we'll screw these ones in last, and yeah, but yeah, as you can see, the lugs are in. They are now where they should be. It might last, it might be even stronger than the factory. But we'll see. But if it breaks again in the future, then the customer's probably going to have that replaced. But it should do for now. Alright, let's get the chassis back together. So, with these Vaios, it's always the case where you put the headphone and mic on first. But before we do that, it would help if I put the power to the motherboard in the right slot onto the heatsink as shown. Alright, so as I was saying, this side goes on first, and you thread it through the little holes, and then same goes for the DC jack, and then the rest can just clip into place. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to put the flat screws in first. So flat ones were around the CD drive. I've got super glue on my posi drive. Doesn't help, does it? Get that off. Alright, okay. So yeah, we'll do these flat ones around the CD drive first, then we'll do the one by the hard drive. Is there. Then we'll do the two shorter screws, which are next to the battery connector, which is here. All right, now we'll put the CD drive into place, and that slides in, and that holds in by this one here. Then we'll fit the hard drive. So there's a connector here. We need to make sure that it slides into place and clicks into place like that. Now there's two small screws that hold the hard drive in. They're a different size to all the others, and they go here and here. There are arrows on the actual caddy for the hard drive to tell you that there needs to be screws there. Okay, now we can put the rest of the screws in. The rest of the screws are the same size, except for these two, which are for the LCD, where we've just repaired the lugs. So I'm going to leave those until last, because we're going to want to make sure that they're done. Well, they're done very carefully once the rest of the others are in. Especially that we've only just repaired the lugs, so we don't want to go too hard on those. So let's just get all these into place first. Okay. That's looking good. All right, so the next thing we need to do is pop the covers on for the RAM and for the hard drive, and the one for the RAM, we need to remember to put these speaker connections. So there's the one we didn't draw on, and then the one we did draw on, we know that that one goes there because we drew on the connector as well. Okay, so that is nicely in place, and we can put the top of that one on. There we go, just make sure it's all clipped in nicely. And then we can put the hard drive one on. Like so. Let's just double check that everything is all now in place except for the two LCD screws that we didn't put in. Okay, that looks good to me. So the longer screw on these, well, there's two different size screws for the LCD. The longer one is for the Kensington side where the lock is, because there's an extra bit of distance there. The shorter one is the one without it, which is that side. So I'm just going to put the shorter one in first, and I'm going to go really lightly so we don't break the lug. There we go, brilliant. And then we're going to put the longer one in. Again, I'm going to go really lightly so we don't break the lug. Now, I'm not saying these lugs are going to hold by any means, but it'd be great if they did. Okay, that's nice and careful on those. Okay. Then we're going to connect up the battery. So, and then lock it. Now, let's boot up Windows. Well, let's open it up extremely carefully without breaking the lug. That actually looks way better now. Yeah, that's better. Okay, as you can see, the case is now nice and straight because the lug is doing its job and holding the LCD in place. So look, we open it like that and we close it and the lug's not moving. So that is good so far. Now let's get the power cable connected and see if we can power up Windows without it shutting down. Power cable in. Let's get it turned on. Fan's blowing nicely. Windows is loaded up. I'm not going to show you the screen because it's got the customer's personal information on there. But I'm just going to log in using the password is what he's told me. Okay. All right, so everything looks good. The Vaio is on. The fan seems to be working nicely. It's got some new thermal paste on the CPU as well. So we should be good. So let's just wait a couple of minutes just to make sure it's all good, and that's another good repair. While we're waiting, I'm just gonna check my phone for the next repair and see what I've got to do. Actually, while that's doing that, we'll give it something strenuous to do. Well, not strenuous, but something that's going to bring the fan up to speed. So I'm just going to connect to my internet and see if we can get a YouTube video in 4K or something playing. Everything looks good so far. Oh, this is Windows 8, isn't it? Goodness me. All right, so we're connected to the Wi-Fi. Now we need to head over to Chrome. We'll go to YouTube. And I'm just going to search for some 4K video. And we've got an aquarium. So even though that this is not actually probably a 4K screen, I'm still going to play it in 4K anyway. Even though it probably won't play it very smoothly. So now that's running a 4K video, and I can feel the fan now really really heating up. It's really getting up to speed now. I can feel the warm air coming out of the laptop. You can hear the fan. So the fan is definitely working well now. And it's perfectly doing its job. The computer hasn't turned off yet, so that's a good sign. Get some of this turned up, tidied up while we're waiting for that. Okay, well that's brilliant. Everything's working. It's not shutting down. Fan's working well. Lugs are fixed for now. And laptop is now fixed. So I think I'm gonna call it a day on that one now. Happy with that, and I'm sure the customer's going to be pleased with that as well. So yeah, thanks again guys, thanks for joining me on this repair of a Sony Vaio SVF152C29M. The fan was just caked up with dust and it wasn't spinning, so new thermal paste on the heatsink. Fan was cleaned up. Also fixed the lugs on the bottom base plastics as well using the cotton trick. So whoever knows how long that's going to last, I don't know. But in the future, the customer will probably need a new base plastics if the lugs don't hold with the cotton. I mean, they might do. It's super strong at the moment, and it's doing its job really well. So thanks again for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and give this stream a like as well if it helped you out at all. And until the next repair, thank you very much.